What's up, Internet? My name is Michael Cook, and this is Blue Giant Media. We're here to help you find, learn, and play the games that you love. Today, I want to put the spotlight on Legendary, a Marvel deck building game by Devin Lowe and published by Upper Deck. I'm going to set the game up a little bit, go through the rules a little bit, and then I'm going to let you know what I think about this game, what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and whether it might be something that you might like. Alright, I have the game set up right now for 2 players. I followed the setup in the corner here, which I'll run down real quick. It says each player is going to start with their own decks consisting of 8 shield agents, which are these ones that have the star on them, which means that it counts for 1 buy power or recruit points for these getting more heroes. 4 shield troopers, which are these ones right here, that give you 1 attack power. The next thing you're going to do is place the following cards face up on the board. The 30 shield officers, the 30 bystanders, which you'll notice I have face down because this is with the expansions that added bystanders that have special abilities, so they aren't all the same anymore like they were in the base set. Then the 30 wounds. The last thing that I have added here as well from expansions is these are the Sidekicks. They are shuffled and placed face down. Originally, when the first expansion came out that had these, which I believe was the Captain America expansion, it had just 1 type. It had Bucky. But subsequent expansions have added more Sidekicks, so now that is also shuffled and placed face down. Next thing you're going to do is select 1 Mastermind. So right now I randomly grabbed Loki out of the box. Then you are going to place him face up with all of the Mastermind tactics beneath, of which there are 4. And they all kind of, every time you fight him, you're going to grab one of those, and it's going to do different things, good or bad, depending on the Mastermind itself and how they're set up. But whenever you do defeat them, you will still get the 5 victory points, provided you actually get to keep the card, which sometimes you will try and fight them and then find that you either fought the wrong thing based off of, there's one Mastermind, I believe it's Mysterio, who when you fight him, some of the tactics say you missed him. So it was one of his shadows or holograms, or I forget what the term is. Anyway, next thing you're going to do is select 1 scheme, and there are many of them, and a lot of those do all kinds of different things to the setup that you will deal with at the bottom in step 6 here. Then it says that based off the number of players, you're going to add the following things to the decks. For villain groups, you're going to grab, for 2 players, it says 2 of them. Usually, the Mastermind is going to tell you to lead a villain group. Some of them, I believe some might lead henchmen, but it's going to tell you one thing that you're going to lead, which means it's going to be included in this villain deck. There will be a total of 2 villain groups and 1 henchman, 2 bystanders, and 5 master strikes. And this says Loki will always lead the enemies of Asgard, which is a villain group. So that is going to be one of the 2 that we will be using. Then you will also be adjusting the game setting conditions based off of the scheme. So this particular scheme says that we are going to put 6 scheme twist cards in the villain deck. And then all of those are shuffled up here. So this contains 2 villain groups, 1 henchman group, 2 bystanders, 6 scheme twists, and 5 master strikes, all shuffled up. Then there will be 5 heroes in a 2-player game. So you can randomly pick the 5. You can use, maybe you can use your knowledge of what Mastermind and what enemies, villain groups, and henchmen you're facing to help you decide. Maybe you want to go thematic and grab 5 different X-Men, or you want to grab 5 different Avengers, you want to grab a whole bunch of Spider-Friends. Or maybe you want to grab, that this particular Mastermind has, Loki says that when a Master Strike comes out, anyone who does not have a strength hero is going to take a wound. So maybe you want to pick specific heroes that have a lot of different cards that are strength-based moves, strength-based attacks, strength-based abilities. So you can use whatever method you want. There are also a lot of different randomizer apps that you can use on your phone that are going to, you punch in what expansions you have, you punch in how many players you want to play with, and it's going to pull up a scheme, a Mastermind, 5 heroes, and the villain groups and henchmen groups that you want to set up in order to play the game. Then you grab all of them out of the box, shuffle everything up, and then you're ready to go. Setup, it takes a while. it takes a while to navigate through all of your stuff. I have everything set up, so I've got all the heroes right here, and these are all the heroes through the Deadpool expansion, so there's still quite a few that I do not have. And then in the base box, right here I have, these are all the different villain groups, these are all the henchmen groups, these are all the masterminds, these are all the different scheme twists that you can play with. And then this is where I keep all the base set of cards, you know, the shield agents, the bystanders, the sidekicks, the wounds, and the starting cards. So having to navigate through all that, find everything, and then shuffle it all together, it's pretty cumbersome. So keep that in mind. But anyway, we're all set up. So on your turn, what you're going to do is turn over one card from the villain deck. In this case, it is a bystander. So nobody to fight, but he's just going to hang out in the sewer. Or I should actually say, they don't hang out in the sewers here. They are captured by the mastermind. So this guy right here, you're going to have to beat the mastermind in order to rescue that bystander. But when you do, you're going to get one of the tactic cards and that bystander, which will give you 1 extra point, and a sidekick who's going to give you a quick little bonus. If you're not familiar with sidekicks, it is a card that you can always buy one of these. They always cost 2, and it's going to give you a one-time bonus. So it'll go into your discard pile, get shuffled back in. When you play it, it's going to give you a bonus, and then go back to the bottom of the sidekick deck. So right now I've got 2 attack. That is worthless because there's nothing out there to attack. And I have 4 buy power. So I can look and see what we've got here, and I'm not really going to read this too much. I'm just going to go ahead and grab this one because it's 4. It says that it's going to be 2 attack power. It says Savior, and Savior means that if I have 3 or more saved bystanders, then I'm going to get to do this special ability, and this special ability says Man Out of Time. That Man Out of Time thing kind of plays on the fact that Steve Rogers was frozen in time. So if you're familiar with Dominion, it is a duration card. You're going to play it, it's going to do its ability, you're going to set it aside, draw your 6 cards to begin your next turn. At the beginning of your next turn, that card is immediately played to begin your next turn again, and then you go with the rest of your turn. Just keep track of the fact that you used it once. You can't just keep using it over and over and over and over and over again. You can't say, all right, cool, Savior, and once it's out there, it just stays there for the rest of the game and gives me that bonus. It doesn't work that way. So keep track of it, but you do still get the second turn you play it. It counts for having played the, in this case, shield team and the covert tactic or ability card. So right now it's just going to be doing 2 attack for me every time I play it, but it's going to get better and better as the game goes on, especially once I rescue 3 bystanders. At the end of my turn, I will discard everything I used, grab 6 new cards, which at the beginning of the game, since you start with 12, is going to be the rest of the cards that you have, and that's the end of my turn. It will proceed to your turn. To begin your turn, you will turn over a card from the villain deck. You turned over this card right here. It says Shield Clearance. That means in order to fight this particular character, you're going to have to take one of your cards that has Shield, and you are going to have to discard it, and then you can fight him. Then it says when you fight him, you get to KO a card from your discard pile, which KO means take a card and get rid of it forever, which normally you put it right here, but since I've got your hand showing right here, I'm just going to set it to the side. So you could do it that way, which I guess I was doing that sort of because I knew that you could. So you've got 4 attack here. You're going to fight him. You're going to do your shield clearance by discarding that 1 shield card. Then you will fight him and KO that card right there, which costs the 3 fight. So you defeated this hero, and it's going to give you 1 victory point at the end of the game. You'll take it right now, though, and you'll put it face down. You get to take a look at it when you want. And then you have 2 buy power, which you could buy this Professor Xavier card, which is going to give 1 attack power. And if you have already played an X-Men hero this turn, it will give you plus 2 attack power on top of that for a total of 3. Or you can go ahead and try and buy a sidekick. So this one, it's Throg. special sidekick. So it's a frog version of Thor. It's going to give you 2 recruit power, which is going to give you that right back, which is kind of cool. And it says, once this turn, if you made at least 6 recruit power, you'll get +2 attack. Put this on the bottom of the sidekick stack. So when you play this one, if you manage to get 6 total or more recruiting power, instead of just getting the 2 recruiting power, you'll also get 2 more attack power. That can be kind of nice. And whenever you buy anything, it's always going to go straight to your discard pile. Keep it face up so you know which one's your draw pile, which one is your discard pile. And then at the end of your turn, clean everything up, draw 6 fresh cards. And somehow I have given you more cards than you're supposed to have. I must have... Well, there we go. Sorry about that. Beginning of my turn. Turn over the top card of the deck. And you'll keep playing like this, turning over cards from the top of the deck. If you turn over a scheme twist, you will do what the scheme says. In this particular setup, since Loki is trying to use the Unbreakable Enigma code, if you have a scheme twist come up, you will put a card from the hero deck face down next to the scheme as part of the Enigma code. So you'll take one and you'll set it down to the side. And then, as a special rule, whenever you fight a villain, any villain, you may pay 1 recruit to look at one of the face down Enigma cards, any one that you want. And when you fight the Mastermind, you must first guess the color of each Enigma card and then reveal them. If you guess them right, fight the Mastermind as normal. If not, your turn ends and mix up the Enigma cards face down. And then you'll have to kind of look through them again to try and figure out what's going on. So, Scheme Twist will do something different every time you play. If you choose to fight Loki, or if a Master Strike comes out, Loki says, each player reveals a strength hero, which I just seen. Hulk, right here, this particular one, has a strength icon on it. So you got to reveal one or you gain a wound. Whenever you gain a wound, it is going to go into your discard pile. If on your turn you ever have a wound or one or more wounds in your hand, you can choose to just pass your turn to patch up those wounds. You'll get rid of, it says right here, KO all wounds from your hand. So you will just get rid of them and pass your turn. When you fight the Mastermind, let's say you have the 10 necessary attack power, and you fight the Mastermind, you're going to go ahead and take one of these cards, and you're going to turn it over. This particular one says, fight. Each other player KOs 2 bystanders from their victory pile. So I'm going to get 5 victory points, and my opponents are all going to lose, effectively, 2 victory points. Because those are all going to get KO'd, which, that sucks. If he has one captured here, I will get to take both of these and put them in my victory pile. And once he has been defeated 4 times, then we get to go to a final showdown where we all turn over, and this part's optional. You'll all turn over, take 1 extra turn simultaneously, not doing any of the fighting here. You're just going to play your cards using special abilities, and you're going to total up all of the attack power and recruit power that you have, add them together, and whichever one of us has the most is going to take the final card, which is worth an additional 5 victory points. Ways that you can lose the game are set up or explained in the scheme, and sometimes by the Mastermind himself. This particular scheme says once the 6th twist comes out, then evil wins. But some of them are going to say more, some of them are going to say once a certain number of villains escape, once a certain number of heroes are KO'd, once any number of different things happens. You saw that stack of schemes was pretty thick. So there's a lot of different possibilities, and the rules can change pretty drastically. Outside of the basic framework of rules that I've explained so far, anytime that there is anything that kind of contradicts that, go with what the cards themselves say, because they supersede the base set of rules. The other thing that can happen is if all of the hero cards are, the whole deck gets emptied, or the whole villain deck gets emptied. We'll finish that turn, and then basically you survive the scheme, but you did not capture the Mastermind. So it's a stalemate. You will total up everyone's victory points. Whoever has the most is the individual winner. So if you lose, you all lose. If you stalemate, you'll have one winner. And if you defeat the mastermind, you'll again total up everybody's victory points, and whoever has the most points is the MVP, but we're all winners. The other thing that you can do is you will subtract, let me double check here. You can subtract 4 victory points for each bystander that was carried away by escaping villain. So not KO'd, but carried away. So like this Loki tactic card here says that you're going to KO bystanders from people's victory piles. That does not count against this. So minus 4 victory points for each bystander that was carried away, so in the escape villains area here, and minus 3 points for each scheme twist that occurred, and minus 1 point for each villain that escaped. So I guess I did not cover escaping villains, and that's because we only played a couple rounds, but as subsequent, if another card comes out, if it's a bystander, it's going to be captured by this person. If it's a scheme twist, the scheme twist happens. If it's a master strike, the master strike happens. But if it's any villain or henchman, it's going to keep pushing them through the town. And some of them have ambush powers that you have to pay attention to. The kind of base things that you're going to see is fight, ambush, and escape. So when an ambush happens, this particular one says each player discards 3 cards, then draws 2 cards. So that's not good. But if they get pushed through the town, so if there's a gap here and a new one comes out, they fill. It doesn't push them unless they're actually pushed. But once they do escape from town, if they are carrying a bystander, everybody has to discard 1 card. And as just mentioned, you will lose 4 victory points on top of the 1 from the escaping villain. Then, regardless of whether they had a bystander or not, the active player is going to choose 1 hero card of 6 or less and KO them. Remove it from the game. And then also, cards that say ambush or escape. An escape ability will take effect when the villain escapes. So keep that in mind too. You can kind of see which enemies might be more devastating should they escape or not. Whether they've got bystanders with them or whether they have an escape ability. You can help let that prioritize beyond just the ability to defeat them and the number of victory points that you're going to get when you defeat them. You'll play through whether you lose to the scheme, do that draw, defeat the mastermind, or meet some other condition that's explained by the scheme, because it can change quite a bit. There might be different ways to win, different ways to lose. But again, anytime anything contradicts those base element rules, go with what the contradiction, the card, that it will override the base rules. At the end of that, you'll total up the points and find out who the winner is, or who the MVP is, or who the best loser is. Alright, now you've got a little bit of a feel for the rules. I want to tell you what I do like and what I don't like about the game. One thing that I do like is it's a deck building game. It's one of my favorite genres. I love Dominion. I love Mystic Vale. I love Legendary. It's a great game. So right off the bat, I'll tell you deck building, it's one of my favorite mechanics. So it's got that going for it. I like it. I love the theme. I absolutely love Marvel stuff. I didn't read a lot of comic books growing up, but a few. And if you look around my room right now, I've got a couple Marvel things around there, and I intend to add more as time goes on. So I'm a big fan of Captain America, Thor, Black Panther, and Deadpool. Those are some of my favorite characters, both for kind of who they are, their personalities, what they stand for, or maybe it's just I like the movies. Deadpool, he's just hilarious. You know, the other 3, I kind of like who they are. Deadpool's just funny. So, theme. Great theme. Cooperative game. I'm big on cooperative games. This is a semi-cooperative game, so based off of how you scale the difficulty, you can make the game completely different. Whether you want to go full cooperative, you can take on Thanos, take on Galactus, take on one of these difficult schemes, and it turns into a really tough game where you don't have any choice but to work together. Or, if you want to kind of be competitive and maybe you want to play like Deadpool and you do a lot of collateral damage and you're kind of goofy and you just want to mess with people, then you can go with one of the easier masterminds, easier schemes, and you can play a little bit more competitively. So I like that you can tailor the difficulty, tailor the style of play to what you like, but overall, I do like cooperative games. So this checks that box for me as well. Other things that I like, the variety that you have in this game is ridiculous. I mean, a lot of deck building games have a ton of variety, but this one's got so much, just not in the cards that you can choose from, but the way the actual game plays out, with a variety between the masterminds, the henchmen. That gives a lot of variance in difficulty and maybe a little bit of style of play, but when you have all that variety in the schemes themselves, that changes not just the difficulty of the game, but the actual plot, the storyline, the mechanics of the game actually change. And that's huge, and that is really cool. There's still not that many games, in my opinion, that do that. There's a lot more asymmetrical games that are coming out, but this isn't necessarily asymmetrical so much in player powers as just the actual game itself is different. I think that's really cool. I love that about the game. So, now into some of the things that I don't like. My biggest complaints are card quality, because my starting cards, the little shield sets, I can't remember the names of them now, the starting 12 cards that you start with, mine are getting worn out. They get chipped on the sides, they're not the best quality, and honestly, I don't like sleeving my games. I don't want to buy a whole bunch of card sleeves. I kind of wish, with all the expansions that they come out with, that they would release, sort of like Dominion did with a base card set, if you could buy just the base cards, just a starting deck of cards, to replace those that get worn out. I've got around, 60 or so plays in this game. Not an astronomical amount, but a pretty good amount. And they just show a lot of wear, and when you shuffle the deck, especially with the newer expansions, immediately, looking at the deck, looking at the sides, the color, the wear, the chips, the kind of digging in, the scarring, you can tell which ones are the starting cards. So you kind of have to go like this, shuffle overhand like I do, and then you kind of just have to deal off the top without looking at the deck, because if you take a chance to look at it, you might go, oh, well, I'm not done shuffling yet, because you see there's a big old stack of starting cards at the top. I don't like that. That's something that I think that is relatively easily rectified with at least a small pack of starting cards that you can replace, but ultimately it's not that high quality card stock. The other part mechanically that I don't like about the game is it doesn't really scale well for the beginning of the game based off of the number of players. If you're playing with 2 players, you're both going to get a certain number of turns before you're actually in danger of getting some of those villains escaping from town. So you have a better chance of actually getting some cards into your deck, going through your deck, and getting a chance to get some combos out before you're kind of up against it. With 5 players, by the time you've had your second turn, you might already be having people escaping. You might already have those villains escaping, and based off the scheme, some schemes are just impossible based off of the difficulty, and not based off difficulty, based off the number of players. And, okay, I get it. There are some schemes that are just going to be easier with more or less players, but I think that that's a fundamental flaw in the game. I don't like how the number of players drastically changes where it actually reaches a point in the game where you feel like you can keep up. And ultimately, that leads to kind of my other point about the game that I don't like, and that's, regardless of the scheme, it kind of seems like there's this ramp up where you're like, oh crap, we're about to die, and if you crest that hill, it starts going downhill, and you go, okay, now we're going to win, now I might start looking to kind of screw my buddies over or focus more on me and the points that I want to get. So it's a little bit kind of linear in that sense, where you have an idea of, once you crest that hill, okay, I think we're going to make this, and you can transition to focusing on yourself. I kind of wish that it was a little bit more even difficulty throughout, instead of there's that ramp up to where things are just completely uncontrolled. There's no way to control it. There's no way to keep up. And then it reaches a point where you crest that hill, and now not only can you keep up, but sometimes the city is empty immediately. After every person's turn, something comes out and they kill it. Because now you've reached that point where your power creep has crested over the difficulty of the henchmen and the villains, and now it's just a countdown to see who gets the most points. So there's that aspect of it. Those are the big things that I don't like about the game. On the whole, should you buy it? Do you like deck building games? Then you should buy it. It's a good one. Do you like replayability? Do you like Marvel? Do you like cooperative games? Then yes. Do you like games that are incredibly tight, well-designed? This isn't so much that. It is a well-designed game. But if you like those really tight games that are kind of really crunchy brain burns, and you don't want a tip of the card or the wrong henchman to come out at the wrong time, scheme twist to come out at the wrong time. You're not going to like that. It's something that bothers me, but I can completely get around. But you may not like that, so keep that in mind. And other things that you may not like, well, the theme isn't for everybody. Maybe you're a DC fan, and I like DC characters as well. I'm not one of those people who pick sides. I like Star Trek and Star Wars. So, but maybe you just don't like Marvel because you don't like them on principle. I don't know. But there's that. Mechanically, to me, it's all about that kind of build up and the predictability of once you've reached that tipping point, whether you're going to lose or win, and you can kind of tell. That's a little bit too obvious. I wish that was veiled a little bit better. Other things that you may not like is the mountain of expansions. I've got a ton of expansions for this game, but I've reached the point where I'm like, I like a lot of different games. I'm not going to get as much play out of this with all the expansions to justify owning them all. So maybe that's a good thing for some people. Maybe you can like to pick and choose the ones that you want to keep. But for me, I tend to like everything. So I kind of reached a point where around 3 or 4 expansions ago, after I think it was I think Marvel Noir. That was the first one that I didn't buy, and I haven't bought any of them since then, I don't think. I bought Deadpool. That might have been the last one that I bought. And I'm not kind of like picking and choosing. It just kind of stopped, and I was like, I don't know. Because I bought Marvel Noir. No, I bought Deadpool, and I bought the Civil War. And I barely played either one of those. I like them both, but I barely played any of them. So it got to the point where I said it's just not worth it for me to buy more because it doesn't get played enough to justify spending continued large sums of money on it. So it's a bit of a money sink. Keep that in mind too. On the whole, I love the game. I think that most people would like the game, especially if they have any similar taste to me. So hopefully that helps you decide whether you like the game, whether you want to play the game, whether you want to buy the game, or if nothing else, at least you know something about the game. If you like what you see, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to know where to buy Legendary or any other great games, keep a lookout in the description section for a link to macronovagames.com. You'll also find a link there to my setup and gameplay sample of Marvel Legendary. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.